Hello everybody. So it's been a little bit. We finished off the 9 weeks pretty strong. I feel like everybody got in most of their assignments that they could anyway. And so it's time for us to start moving forward in the second 9 weeks. All right, so today we're going to be going over factoring. Factoring is something that's going to be, it's really going to come in handy later on in the class. But for right now, we just need to understand what it is and how to perform the action. So we're going to be talking about standard form of trinomials today. So standard form of trinomials looks like this. So ax squared plus bx plus c. Now a, b, and c are all numbers of some sort. They can be integers, they can be rational numbers, doesn't matter as long as they're numbers. Now x squared and x are going to be our variables. Now they will always look like x squared or x. They won't look, they will never be a number in this instance so far. So with that being said, we're going to start jumping into factoring. As long as you understand, like right now, that standard form is ax squared plus bx equal ax squared plus bx plus c. All right, so first let's start out by what is a factor. Well, a factor is two numbers that multiply together. So like, let's say that I was looking at the number 9. Let's change it to red. 9. Well, 9 can be broken up into, well, 3 times 3. It can also be broken up into 1 times 9. These are factors. These are two numbers that multiply to give us 9. So that's what a factor is. So I'm going to write this in blue. So the two numbers that are multiplied to get another number. So let's look at 15. Well, 15 is 3 and 5. 8 is 2 and 4, 1 and 8. See what I mean? There are two numbers that make up another number. So what we're going to do is whenever we factor, we're going to find two things that multiply to give our what we're trying to factor. Okay, so let's do an example really quickly. I'm going to do my example in yellow this time. So let's say that I have 9x squared plus 3x. Well, if I was going to factor, I would find two things that multiply to give me 9x squared plus 3x. So I'm trying to find two things that multiply to give 9x squared plus 3x. Well, it turns out that we're going to find what we can divide both of these numbers by. Well, I can divide both of these numbers by 3x. It could be, the x doesn't necessarily always have to be there. It could be, like if the x wasn't there, it would just be 3 because this section here has a 3x, and this section here also has a 3x. Okay, so it has to be divisible by whatever we're trying to factor out. So the way that we write this is we'll write our 3x, whatever we factored out, and then we'll divide these by what we just factored out. Well, 9x squared divided by 3x, or 9x squared divided by 3x, well, is 3x, and 3x divided by 3x, well, is 1. So right there's your answer. So we just factored out, we had two numbers now that multiply to give us 9x squared plus 3x and 3x plus 1. So that's what factoring is. So now it gets kind of a little bit more difficult whenever we start getting into trinomials. So if we're going to factor a trinomial ax squared plus bx plus c, well, we just talked about standard form. I'm going to go ahead and write one out right here for you. And it's going to look like this. X squared, let's see here, plus 2x minus 15. And we're going to factor this. Well, if you notice, nothing goes into all of these. Nothing goes into x squared that also goes into 2x that also goes into negative 15. See what I mean? Like we would need an x on the negative 15 to factor out an x, but we can't do that yet. Okay, so we have to be able to factor this. So we're going to have to find two things that multiply together to give us x squared plus 2x minus 15. All right, well, it turns out that it's going to be two binomials. So the two binomials, what we did last week, binomial multiplication, is going to be what multiplies to give us x squared plus 2x minus 15. So we start out by listing all of the things, all of the factors of negative 15. So negative 15 here, we're going to list all of its factors. So it turns out that 1 and negative 15, negative 1 and 15. You don't actually have to write all this out. You can do it in your head, but I'm just going to list it all out. It may seem redundant, but I'm going to list it out so that it's very clear what exactly that I'm doing. Okay, well, 2 doesn't go into 15. 3 does go into 15. So 3 and negative 5 and negative 3 and positive 5. The reason why I'm doing the negative is because negative 15 is a negative. So one of the numbers must be negative. It could be negative 3. It could also be negative 5. It could be negative 1. It could be negative 15, whichever one. Just one of them has to be negative. Okay, now, let's see here. Negative 15. Let's go to 4. So we skipped 2 because 2 doesn't go into 15. We went to 3. Now we're going to go to 4. Well, 4 doesn't go into 15. Well, the next number is 5. And we've already written it. So that means we're done. We've finished all of our factors there. Okay. So now negative 3. Now we know that it's going to be 3 and 5. The reason why we know that it's going to be 3 and 5 is because 1 and 15, I can add 1 to 15, and I get 16. I can take 1 away from 14, and those don't equal 2. So we're going to add these to get this number here. So we're adding these two numbers to get 2x. So what are they going to be? So is it going to be positive 3 and negative 5? Well, 3 plus negative 5 is negative 2. This is not negative 2. Negative 3 plus positive 5 is positive 2. So that's what it ends up being, is negative 3 and positive 5. And for this spot here, we put x, because x times x is x squared. All right, so our answer ends up being x minus 3, x plus 5. All right, so this is the answer right here. Whenever we factored those are the two factors that factor to give you x squared plus 2x minus 15. All right, so now we're going to check our answer. You don't have to do this, but this will tell you whether or not you got it correct or not. So check our answer. So how are we going to check our answer here? So here's our answer. X minus 3, x plus 5. Well, if you notice, this looks like a FOIL problem. Factoring is backward foiling. So we first learned how to FOIL. Now that we've learned how to FOIL, we're now going to learn how to factor. Well, factor is backwards foiling. Whenever you FOIL, you get the answer to a factoring problem. Okay, so let's start out. X times x. X times x is x squared. X times positive 5 is positive 5x. negative 3 times x, negative 3x, negative 3 times positive 5, negative 15. Combine our like terms, x squared plus 2x minus 15. And there's your answer. So if you notice, that equals that. Those two things are the same thing. So that's how you tell if whenever you get your answer, if you've checked it, that's how you know that you factored it correctly. Okay, so now it gets to a point where it's a little bit more difficult because so like whenever we talked about ax squared plus bx plus c, this a value is not equal to 1. So that a value there is not equal to 1. So this is going to be a different style of factoring. We're going to factor it the same way, but we have to add a little bit more steps to it in order to work it out. All right, so now we're going to do 5x squared plus 7x minus 6. And I'm pretty sure that all of you have done this at one point or another, but we're going to make sure. All right, so this is how I was taught to do it. There are other ways out there to figure this out, but this is the way that I was taught to do it, and this is the way that I'm going to teach you to do it. Okay, so first off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply negative 6 and 5. And I'm multiplying them. So I'm going to put a little multiplying sign up there saying I'm multiplying. So 5 times negative 6. Let me make that a little bit better of a 5. 5 times negative 6 is negative 30. So from here, we're going to list all the factors of negative 30. Okay, so, well, 1, 30. I'm not going to do the negatives. Okay, 2 and 15, you just know that one of them could possibly be negative. 3 and 10, 4 doesn't go into it, and 5 and 6, well, the next number is 6, so that's how we know we're finished. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is over here, we're going to write 5x. Let me write those in a different color. Do pink. 5x. So the reason I wrote 5x is because of this number there. So that's the reason why I wrote those down. All right, so now we're going to see what multiplies to give us positive 7. There. Okay, so well, it looks like a 3 and a 10. It's because 3 times 10, 10 minus 3 is 7. So since 10 minus 3, we know that the 3 is going to be negative. We have a negative 3, and we also have a positive 10. All right, we're not finished, because if you notice, if I multiply this, 5x times 5x is 25x squared, which is not 5x squared. So we're not finished yet. So now we're going to reduce, kind of like you would a fraction, these two binomials here. We're going to reduce them. Okay, and by reducing, we're going to see what multiplies in both of these. So we're going to factor out something without actually factoring out something. So 5x minus 3, nothing goes into either of those except for 1. And if we divide it by 1, we get the same answer. So we're left with 5x minus 3. And over here, 5 will go into 5x and 5 will go into 10. So 5x divided by 5 is x. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And this turns out to be your answer. So this is the finale here. This is how you know that your answer, or this is the answer to the problem here. All right, so let's check. So I'm going to check over here. Check our answer. You don't have to check your answer. If you feel confident in it, you don't have to check it. But for this sake, I'm going to check it to show you that it is correct. Okay, so let's start out by 5x. 5x times x is 5x squared. 5x times 2 is positive 10x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. 5x times 2, no wait, we're not doing that. All right, negative 3 times positive 2 gives you negative 6. And if you notice, once we combine our like terms, 5x squared plus 10x minus 3x is 7x minus 6. And that gives us the exact same thing that we factored in the first place. Let me make that a little bit neater. And there you go. So that's how you factor trinomials where the first number is greater than, less than 1. It just means that it's not equal to. All right, so there's one more type, and this is called difference of squares. We'll go into sum of squares next week, and we'll also go into difference of cubes and sum of cubes next week. But for today, I just want to go over difference of squares. So difference of squares is exactly what it sounds like. It's a difference of squares. Difference meaning subtraction. So it looks like this. A squared minus b squared. And then this equals, so a squared minus b squared is the same as if we were going to have like a middle term, it would be like 0. A squared plus 0 minus b squared if we were going to make it a trinomial. But for this, we don't have to make it a trinomial. So a squared minus b squared equals a plus b times a minus b. I'm going to show you that this is true. So let's FOIL this. Let's go down here. A plus b, a minus b, and I'm going to FOIL this. A times a squared. A times negative b, negative ab, b times a, positive ab, b times negative b minus b squared. If we combine our like terms, negative ab plus ab is equal to 0, or in other words, a squared minus b squared. So the same principles apply, FOILing works, the same with this problem as it would with any other problem. Now, let's do an example really quick to show you what this, how to use this. Okay, so here, I'm going to draw it over here as our example. Let's say that I have, let's say 25x squared minus 9. So in order for it to be a difference of squares, it has to be subtraction, and there has to be a square root of both sides. You have to have that, or it's not going to, it's not going to work. Okay, it's not going to work cleanly. We could take a square root of both sides and it would work, but you're not going to get a rational answer for us to put a point later on. Okay, so that's how it works. A, what is A? Well, we know that a squared is equal to 25x squared, and b squared is equal to negative 9. So we take the square root of 25x squared, and then the square root of 9, and we get that a equals square root of 25x squared is 5x, and then the square root of 9 is equal to 3. I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to highlight it. And let's do like a pink. Yeah, so that tells you what your A is equal to. Let's write this in yellow. All right, so now whenever we actually fill out our answer, over here, A plus B, so A plus B, so 5x plus B, B happens to be 3, so plus 3. And over here, it'll be A minus B, so A plus B, and then A minus B. And we have 5x minus 3, and there is your answer. So this is a difference of squares answer. So if you have problem, this number minus this number and these two numbers are square rootable, that means that you can write it out as a difference of squares. All right, that's all I have for today. I have your assignment up soon. Email me if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.